The security briefing room felt cold, despite the climate controls working overtime. Jiwoo sat with her hands folded on the metal table, watching Commander Velthar's compound eyes scan through the digital reports floating before him. The insectoid commander's mandibles clicked together in what she had learned meant displeasure. "This assignment is unusual," Velthar said, his translated voice crackling through the speakers. "But you are the only guard I trust with this situation." Jiwoo straightened in her chair. She had served on Station Meridian 7 for 3 years, earning commendations for her work. Whatever this was, she could handle it. "What's the cargo, Commander?" Velthar's antennae twitched. 3 juvenile Ricari, confiscated from smugglers 2 days ago. They are being held until their homeworld sends diplomatic representatives. Jiwoo felt her stomach tighten. Every soldier in the Galactic Coalition knew about Ricari. They came from a quarantined death world where everything evolved to kill. Adult Ricari could tear through reinforced steel with their claws. Their bite force exceeded anything found on Earth. They were apex predators in the truest sense. "How young are they?" she asked. "Approximately 4 months old in their development cycle, still dependent on adult care." Velthar projected an image. 3 creatures appeared, each about the size of a large dog. They had thick gray fur, 6 legs, and faces that reminded Jiwoo of big cats mixed with something more alien. Their eyes were huge and dark. "They look scared," Jiwoo said quietly. "They are dangerous," Velthar corrected. "Even juveniles have killed before. The smugglers lost 2 crew members trying to contain them." "Then why not keep them in stasis?" "Ricari biology does not respond well to stasis. They would die. We must keep them conscious and contained until diplomatic resolution." Velthar leaned forward. "You are human. Your species has an unusual talent for managing unpredictable life forms. You make emotional connections where logic suggests caution." Jiwoo had heard this before. Humans were famous across the galaxy for adopting strange creatures. Other species found it baffling that humans could look at something deadly and see a potential friend. She had grown up with dogs and cats on Earth. She understood that even predators could be family. "What are my orders?" "Monitor them constantly. Ensure containment integrity. Feed them according to schedule. File daily reports. You will move into the containment sector. This is full-time assignment until the diplomatic ship arrives. Estimated time, 3 months. 3 months living in isolation with 3 predator cubs. Jiwoo felt something stir in her chest. Not fear exactly, more like purpose. "I accept." Velthar's mandibles clicked again. "Your friend Tae Yang expressed concerns when he learned you were selected. He asked me to reconsider." Jiwoo smiled slightly. Tae Yang had been her friend since their academy days. He worried too much. "I can handle it, Commander." "See that you do. These creatures represent significant diplomatic value. Nothing can happen to them." The briefing ended. Jiwoo walked through the station corridors toward the containment sector. The station felt more crowded than usual. Supply ships had been delayed recently due to increased pirate activity in the outer lanes. People seemed tense. She found Tae Yang waiting outside her quarters. He was tall for a human, with broad shoulders and a face that usually smiled. Right now, he looked worried. "You really took this assignment?" he asked. "It's my job." "Jiwoo, these aren't Earth puppies. They're killing machines. They're 4 months old. They're babies." Tae Yang ran a hand through his dark hair. "Babies that could rip your throat out. Did you see what they did to those smugglers? The smugglers were probably cruel to them, scared them." Jiwoo touched his arm. "I'll be fine. The containment cells are rated for adult Ricari. The cubs can't break through. That's not what worries me." "You're going to get attached. You always do." Jiwoo didn't argue because he was right. She had always felt drawn to creatures others feared. Back on Earth, she had rehabilitated aggressive rescue dogs that shelters wanted to euthanize. She saw past the fear and anger to the wounded animal underneath. 3 months, she said. Then they go home to their people. I'm just keeping them safe until then. Taeyang sighed. Promise me you'll be careful and actually eat your meals. I know how you get when you're focused on work. I promise. She packed her things and headed to the containment sector. The area was isolated from the main station, accessible only through multiple security checkpoints. The walls were reinforced. The lighting was dimmer here, adjusted for species with sensitive eyes. Medical Officer Hana met her at the entrance. The young woman carried a medical scanner and looked serious. I need to do a baseline health scan before you start, Hana said. Standard procedure for extended containment duty. Jiwoo submitted to the scan. Hana studied the results and nodded. You're healthy. But Jiwoo, please be smart about this. I've reviewed the files. These creatures are not safe. I know what I'm doing. Do you? Because I've seen your psychological profile. You have unusually high empathy scores, even for a human. That's good for some situations. This might not be one of them. Jiwoo met her eyes. They're children who were stolen from their home. Someone needs to care for them. Hana's expression softened slightly. Just don't forget to care for yourself, too. The containment cell was large, about 10 meters square. One wall was transparent, allowing observation. Inside, 3 small figures huddled in the far corner. They pressed against each other, making soft, whimpering sounds. Jiwoo's heart clenched. They looked terrified. She settled into her observation station and began her first log entry. Outside the windows, stars glittered against the darkness of space. Inside, 3 scared children waited to go home. Jiwoo didn't know it yet, but this assignment would change everything. 3 weeks passed slowly in the containment sector. Jiwoo fell into a routine that shaped her days. Wake at 600 hours, check the environmental controls, inspect the containment field integrity, prepare the cubs' morning meal, file reports, repeat. The cubs were smaller than she expected. The largest was about 70 pounds. The smallest barely reached 50. Their gray fur was matted and dull when she first arrived. Their huge dark eyes tracked every movement she made with obvious fear. The first few days, they refused to eat while she watched. She had to leave their food and retreat to her observation station. Only then would they creep forward and devour the nutrition paste provided by the station supply department. The paste smelled awful to Jiwoo's nose. She could not imagine what it tasted like to them. By the end of week 1, they stopped hiding when she entered. They watched her with cautious curiosity instead of pure terror. Progress. By week 2, she started talking to them. It felt silly at first. The translation device on her collar could not convert Raikari language, and they certainly could not understand Korean or Standard Galactic. But she talked anyway. Good morning, she would say, opening the feeding port. How did you sleep? I hope better than me. The air recycler in my quarters makes this weird clicking sound. The cubs tilted their heads when she spoke. Their ears swiveled toward her voice. She named them silently in her head, knowing it was against protocol to personalize assets under guard. The largest she called Gray because his fur was darker than the others. The middle one became Patch because of a white mark on her shoulder. The smallest, the one who seemed most fragile, she named Little. Little worried her. The cub ate less than the others. Sometimes he would not touch his food at all, just curled up in the corner while his siblings ate. Jiwoo filed reports about his condition, requesting medical evaluation. Medical Officer Hana came to examine Little through the containment field. She ran her scanners and frowned. He's malnourished and stressed. Probably was the weakest of his litter even before the smugglers took them. Can you help him? I can adjust his food formula, add supplements. But Jiwoo, you need to understand something. In the wild, runts like this often don't survive. His siblings might kill him if they get hungry enough. They won't, Jiwoo said with certainty she could not explain. They protect him. Watch. Sure enough, when feeding time came, Gray and Patch ate only after Little had his portion. They would nudge the food toward him, making soft chirping sounds. Hana shook her head. Even their family behavior is strange. Most predators would eliminate weak members. Maybe they're not like most predators. The supply situation on the station started getting worse around week 3. An announcement came through all channels. Pirate raids on trade routes meant fewer supply ships. Rations for all species would be reduced by 20% until the situation improved. Jiwoo noticed the change immediately. The cubs' food portions shrank. The nutrition paste came in smaller containers. She watched them eat their reduced meals and felt anger rise in her chest. They were children. They needed proper nutrition to grow. She looked at her own meal that evening. Standard human rations. Protein bar, fortified rice, vegetable paste, and a piece of synthetic fruit. Not delicious, but adequate. She looked at the cubs through the transparent wall. They were licking their empty feeding bowls, still hungry. Jiwoo made a decision. She broke her protein bar in half and put it through the feeding port. 3 heads snapped up, noses twitched. Gray approached first, cautious. He sniffed the protein bar and took it in his mouth. The texture was probably strange to him, but he ate it anyway. "Don't tell anyone," Jiwoo whispered. She did it again the next day, and the day after that. Small portions of her meals added to their rations. Not enough that she felt truly hungry, just enough that they seemed a bit more satisfied. Little started eating better. His eyes seemed brighter. He even played with his siblings sometimes, tumbling over each other in mock fights. Commander Velthar conducted an inspection in week 4. His compound eyes scanned everything in the containment sector. He examined the cubs through the transparent wall. "They appear healthier than expected given the supply reductions," he noted. "How is this possible?" Jiwoo kept her face neutral. "I've been very careful with their feeding schedule, Commander, making sure they get maximum nutrition from available resources. Continue your work. These cubs are valuable diplomatic assets. Their condition reflects on our entire operation." After he left, Jiwoo exhaled slowly. She pulled up the feeding logs on her console and adjusted some numbers. Not enough to look suspicious, just enough to explain the cubs' improved condition. Taiyang visited her that evening. He brought a care package from the station commissary. Coffee substitute, snack bars, a book on datapad. "You look thinner," he said, studying her face. "The lighting in here is bad." "Makes everyone look thinner." Jiwoo. She met his eyes. Her oldest friend. The person who knew her better than anyone. "You're giving them your food, aren't you?" She did not answer. "Damn it, Jiwoo, you promised me you'd eat your meals. They're growing. They need it more than I do. You need it to survive. Do you understand what happens if you get caught? Court-martial, prison, end of your career. They're children, Taiyang. I can't watch them go hungry." He set down the care package and gripped her shoulders. "Listen to me. In 2 more months, their people come to get them. 2 months. Can you please just follow protocol until then?" Jiwoo looked past him to the containment cell. Little was curled up against Gray's side, sleeping peacefully. A few weeks ago, the small cub had been dying. Now he was thriving. "I'll be more careful," she said. It was not a promise to stop. Taiyang knew it. He closed his eyes and sighed. "If you get caught, I never saw anything. Understand?" "I understand." After he left, Jiwoo sat at her observation station and ate half her dinner. The other half went through the feeding port. The cubs learned to wait for these extra portions. They would sit by the port after their regular meals, watching her. Gray started making a soft rumbling sound when she approached. Not aggressive, almost like purring. Patch learned to recognize her footsteps. Her ears would perk up when Ji-Woo entered the sector. Little pressed his nose against the containment field when she got close, as if trying to reach her. Ji-Woo knew she was breaking protocol. She knew she was forming attachments that would make the goodbye painful. She knew she was risking everything. But when she looked at those three young faces, hungry and far from home, she could not stop herself. This was what it meant to be human. 2 months into her assignment, Ji-Woo woke to an emergency announcement echoing through the containment sector. Commander Velthar's voice carried tension she had never heard before. All station personnel, effective immediately, rations are reduced by an additional 40%. Supply convoy was attacked. 3 ships lost. Next delivery uncertain. Conserve all resources. Ji-Woo sat up in her bunk, her head spinning slightly. The room tilted, and she gripped the edge of the bed until it steadied. She had not been sleeping well. Her stomach hurt most of the time now. She checked the cubs through the monitoring screen. All 3 were awake, pacing their cell. They knew something was wrong. Animals always knew. The new ration allocation arrived at her door an hour later. She opened the container and stared at the contents. 1 protein bar, a small pack of fortified rice, a vitamin supplement pill. This was supposed to last her the entire day. She looked through the window at the cubs. Their food delivery sat beside hers. 3 small pouches of nutrition paste, less than half of what they used to receive. Gray was now nearly 90 pounds. Patch was close behind. Even Little had grown to 60 pounds. They were juveniles moving toward adolescence. Their bodies needed fuel to develop properly. Ji-Woo made her choice without hesitation. She ate the vitamin pill and half the rice. Everything else went through the feeding port. The cubs ate frantically. It still was not enough. She could see their ribs starting to show through their fur. Days blurred together. Ji-Woo's body began to protest the lack of food. She felt cold all the time, even when the environmental controls showed normal temperature. Her hands shook when she typed her reports. She had to sit down frequently because standing made her dizzy. Tae Yang came by on day 63. He took one look at her and his face went pale. Ji-Woo, what have you done to yourself? I'm fine. You're not fine. You look like a skeleton. How much are you eating? Enough. He grabbed her arm and she nearly cried out. Everything hurt now. Her muscles ached constantly. Even gentle touch felt like pressure on a bruise. I'm taking you to medical right now. No. She pulled away, stumbling. I can't leave them. Look at yourself. You can barely stand. 2 more weeks. The diplomatic ship arrives in 2 more weeks. I just need to make it 2 more weeks. Tae Yang's jaw tightened. You're killing yourself for them. They're children. They're animals. Dangerous ones. Ji-Woo felt anger flash through her exhaustion. If you saw human children starving, would you walk away because feeding them broke some rule? That's different. How? How is it different? They think. They feel. They're scared and hungry and far from home. Their species doesn't matter. Tae Yang looked at the cubs, then back at her. I should report this. Right now. Get you removed from this assignment before you die. Please don't. Give me one reason why I shouldn't. Ji-Woo met his eyes. Because you understand. You're human too. You know why I can't stop. He stood there for a long moment, internal struggle clear on his face. Finally, he cursed in Korean and pulled out his own ration pack. Eat this. Now. In front of me. Tae Yang. I'm not reporting you, but you have to eat something. I'll bring you extra rations from my supply. I'll figure something out. But you have to promise me you'll actually eat what I bring. Ji-Woo wanted to argue, but her body was failing. She knew it. She took his ration pack with trembling hands and forced herself to eat. It tasted like ash in her mouth. All she could think about was the cub's hungry eyes. Promise me, Tae Yang insisted. I promise. She lied. When he left, she saved half of what he had given her. It went through the feeding port that evening. Commander Velthar sent out another announcement on day 70. Anyone caught hoarding rations would face tribunal. Food theft was now considered a serious crime given the shortage. Jiwoo laughed when she heard it. A hollow, bitter sound. She was not hoarding anything. She was giving it all away. The medical scanner in her quarters blinked red when she stepped on it for her weekly health check. She quietly altered the data before it uploaded to the main system. Changed the numbers to show adequate nutrition levels. Hid the truth. She did not know how much longer she could keep going. Every movement took enormous effort now. Her vision blurred at the edges. She had to hold onto walls when she walked. But the cubs were healthy. Gray was strong and confident. Patch was playful and curious. Little had grown into a beautiful young Ricari, no longer the fragile runt. They had started acting differently around her over the past weeks. When she approached the containment field, all three would come close. They made soft sounds that almost seemed like words. They touched the field where her hand rested on the other side. Other guards who came for inspections commented on it. "Never seen Ricari act like that," one said. "Usually they're aggressive toward anyone who gets close." "They trust her," another replied. "Humans have that effect. It's weird." Jiwoo smiled weakly. Trust. Yes. They trusted her to keep them safe, to keep them fed. She would not betray that trust. On day 87, Jiwoo woke and could not get out of bed. Her body simply would not respond. She lay there for what felt like hours, willing her muscles to work. Finally, she managed to roll to the edge of the bunk. Her legs buckled when she tried to stand. She caught herself on the wall and breathed through the wave of dizziness. The cubs needed their morning meal. She had to get up, had to take care of them. She made it to the food storage and prepared their portions. Her own rations sat unopened. She looked at it for a long moment, then put it through the feeding port with theirs. The cubs ate, unaware of what their guardian had sacrificed. Jiwoo leaned against the wall and closed her eyes. Just for a moment. Just to rest. 2 more weeks. She could do this for 2 more weeks. She had to. Day 87 started like all the others, except Jiwoo could barely remember getting dressed. She stood in front of the mirror in her quarters and did not recognize the person staring back. Hollow cheeks, sunken eyes, skin pale and stretched tight over bone. She pulled on her uniform jacket. It hung loose on her frame. She had tightened her belt 3 notches over the past weeks. Now even that did not help much. The cubs were waiting. That was all that mattered. She prepared their morning meal with mechanical precision. Hands shaking, she opened her own ration container. 1 protein bar, 1 packet of rice. She stared at it for several seconds, her mind moving slowly through fog. The cubs needed it more. They were still growing, still young. She put everything through the feeding port, breakfast and dinner rations both. They would not get another delivery until evening. This would help them through the day. Gray ate first, as always, then Patch. Little took his portion last, but he ate with enthusiasm now. Strong and healthy. Jiwoo smiled. Worth it. All worth it. She needed to do her morning rounds. Check the containment field integrity. Inspect the environmental controls. File her daily report. Simple tasks she had done hundreds of times. She made it 3 steps from the feeding station before the world tilted sideways. Her legs gave out. No warning, just sudden absence of strength. She hit the floor hard, pain shooting through her shoulder and hip. The cubs reacted immediately. All 3 rushed to the containment field, pressing against it. They made sounds Jiwoo had never heard before, high-pitched and urgent, distressed. She tried to push herself up. Her arms trembled and collapsed. She lay on the cold metal floor, cheek pressed against it, watching the cubs through blurred vision. "It's okay," she whispered. "I'm okay." She was not okay. She knew that now. Her body had finally given up, pushed too far, Deprived too long. The cubs' cries grew louder, desperate. Alarms started blaring. The unusual biological readings from the containment cell had triggered automated alerts. Something was wrong with the dangerous predators. Security protocols activated. Jiwoo heard running footsteps, multiple people, voices shouting. "The Ricari are going crazy!" What happened? Something's wrong with... Oh God, someone's down! Hands on her shoulders, rolling her over. She looked up into Tai Yang's horrified face. "Jiwoo! Jiwoo! Can you hear me?" She tried to answer. Her mouth would not form words. "Medical emergency in Containment Sector 7. Now!" Tai Yang was yelling into his comm. "Human guard down, unconscious, possible..." "She's not unconscious," another voice interrupted. Medical Officer Hana dropped to her knees beside Jiwoo, scanner already out. "She's conscious but non-responsive, scanning now." The scanner beeped rapidly. Hana's face went from concerned to shocked to furious in seconds. "How long?" Hana demanded. "How long has she been starving herself?" "What?" Tai Yang looked between them. "No, she promised me she was eating..." "Well, she lied. Look at these readings. Severe malnutrition, dangerous body weight loss. Her organs are under stress. Another week of this, and she would have died." More footsteps. Commander Velthar arrived with his security team. His mandibles clicked rapidly, the insectoid equivalent of alarm. "Status report. What happened to Guard Jiwoo?" "Malnutrition," Hana said flatly. "Severe starvation." "That is impossible. All personnel receive adequate rations even with current supply restrictions." "Then where are her rations going?" The question hung in the air. Everyone looked at the containment cell. The three cubs pressed against the field, still crying out in obvious distress. Velthar's antennae went rigid. "Computer, display all feeding logs for Containment Cell 7 for the past 3 months." Holographic displays appeared, showing columns of data. Velthar studied them with multiple eyes designed to process complex information rapidly. "These numbers are inconsistent. The cubs received more nutrition than supply records indicate was delivered." He turned to Jiwoo. "Where did the additional food come from?" Jiwoo could not answer. Could barely keep her eyes open. "Show me security footage," Velthar ordered. "Last 24 hours. Fast playback." The footage appeared. Everyone watched Jiwoo's routine, preparing the cubs' meal, taking out her own rations, putting everything through the feeding port, keeping nothing for herself. "Go back further," Velthar said quietly. 1 week. Same pattern. Jiwoo giving her food to the cubs. Every meal. Every day. 1 month. Still the same. Full assignment duration. The evidence was undeniable. For nearly 3 months, Jiwoo had been sacrificing her own nutrition to feed the young Ricari. The security team stood in stunned silence. Even Velthar seemed unable to process what they were seeing. "Why?" one guard finally asked. "They're just animals. Dangerous ones." "Why would she starve for them?" Hana was already loading Jiwoo onto a medical stretcher. "Because she's human, and humans are insane when it comes to anything that looks like a child. But these are not children, they are predators." "To you, maybe. To her, they're babies far from home." The cubs followed the stretcher as far as the containment field allowed, crying continuously. The sound echoed through the sector. "Someone needs to sedate those creatures," a guard said nervously. "They're becoming aggressive." "They're not aggressive," Tai Yang said softly, watching them. "They're scared. They think we're taking her away." "That is impossible. Ricari do not form attachments to other species." "Tell that to them." The cub's cries followed Jiwoo all the way to medical. She drifted in and out of consciousness, catching fragments of conversation. "IV nutrients immediately." Heart rate low but stable. "How did she hide this for so long?" "She falsified her medical scans." "For 3 months?" "She was determined." Darkness pulled at her. Jiwoo let it come. The cubs were fed. They were healthy. That was what mattered. She had done her job, protected them, kept them safe. Everything else could wait. Jiwoo woke to white ceiling panels and the steady beep of medical equipment. Her throat felt dry. Her body ached, but it was a different kind of pain than before. Not the hollow emptiness of starvation, just the soreness of a body beginning to heal. "You're awake." Hana's face appeared above her, medical scanner in hand. "How do you feel?" "Tired." Jiwoo's voice came out as a whisper. "How long?" 3 days. "You've been unconscious while we got nutrients back into your system." Hana's expression was stern. "You came very close to dying, Jiwoo. Do you understand that?" "The cubs, are they—" "The cubs are fine. Better than fine, actually, which is more than I can say for you." Relief flooded through Jiwoo. She closed her eyes. "Good. It's not good. None of this is good. You nearly killed yourself." "They were hungry." "So were you. And you're the one who's supposed to stay alive." Before Jiwoo could respond, the door opened. Commander Velthar entered, followed by Tae Yang. The commander's posture was rigid, formal. This was official business. "Guard Jiwoo, I must conduct an inquiry into your actions. You violated protocol, falsified medical records, and redistributed assigned rations. These are serious offenses." Jiwoo met his compound eyes. "I understand, Commander. I accept full responsibility. Do you comprehend the potential consequences? Court-martial, imprisonment, dishonorable discharge." "Yes, sir." Velthar's mandibles clicked together. "Why did you do this? Explain your reasoning." "They were children. They were scared and hungry. I couldn't just watch them suffer." "They are Rikari, apex predators from a death world. They are not children in any sense that matters to non-humans." "They mattered to me." Velthar was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something Jiwoo did not expect. "The situation has changed. There have been developments." "Sir?" "The Rikari diplomatic ship arrived 2 days ago, early. They demanded immediate access to the cubs." Velthar's antennae twitched. What happened next was unprecedented. He activated a holographic display. Footage appeared showing the containment sector. Several large Rikari adults stood outside the cell, observing the cubs. The adults were massive, easily 8 feet tall with muscles that rippled under gray fur. They looked like they could tear through the station hull, but they were not acting aggressive. They were examining the cubs carefully, and the cubs seemed calm, healthy, playful. One Rikari adult, larger than the others and wearing some kind of ceremonial marking, turned to face the camera. Her translated voice was deep and resonant. "This is impossible. Cubs removed from family pack usually die from stress within weeks. These 3 are thriving." "How?" The footage showed Commander Velthar explaining the situation, showing the feeding logs, then showing the security footage of Jiwoo. The Rikari delegation watched in absolute silence as Jiwoo gave away her food day after day, watched her grow weaker, watched her collapse. When the footage ended, the large female stood perfectly still. Then she made a sound that the translator struggled with, something between a howl and a song. "She fed our young with her own life. She claimed them as pack." The holographic recording ended. Jiwoo stared at the empty space where it had been. "The Rikari call her the High Matriarch," Velthar explained. "Their species values self-sacrifice for young above all other virtues. It is the foundation of their entire culture." "I didn't know that." "Of course you didn't. You did not act for strategic gain. You acted on instinct." Velthar's tone shifted slightly. "This changes everything. The matriarch has requested to meet you." "Me?" "She is waiting outside. Are you strong enough?" Jiwoo pushed herself up in the bed. Hana tried to protest, but Jiwoo waved her off. I can do this. The door opened. The High Matriarch entered, having to duck to fit through the human-sized doorway. Up close, she was terrifying. Claws that could slice metal, teeth designed to crush bone, eyes that tracked every tiny movement. But when she looked at Jiwoo, something in that gaze seemed almost gentle. "You are the one they call Jiwoo." The translation was clearer now, probably adjusted for this meeting. "Yes, Matriarch." "You nearly died to protect my people's young. You treated them as your own pack. This is the highest honor in Rikari culture." I couldn't let them starve." "No, you could not. Because you are human." The matriarch moved closer. "We have studied your species since joining the coalition. We find you confusing. You form bonds with creatures that should be prey or predator. You sacrifice for beings not your own kind. We did not understand this behavior. And now? Now we understand that humans see pack where others see only danger. You see family where we see only cubs. This is a gift we did not know existed in the galaxy." The matriarch did something unexpected. She placed one massive clawed hand over her chest and bowed her head. "On behalf of my people, I claim you as pack mother to those 3 young. You have earned our highest honor. You have also earned our eternal alliance." Commander Velthar spoke up. "The diplomatic negotiations have been transformed, Guard Jiwoo. The Rikari have agreed to a full alliance with humanity, military cooperation, trade agreements, cultural exchange, all because of what you did." Jiwoo struggled to process this. "I didn't do it for politics. I did it because they needed me." "We know," the matriarch said. "That is precisely why it means everything." The formal inquiry was dropped. Commander Velthar stated that Jiwoo's actions, though against protocol, had achieved a strategic breakthrough of immense value. No charges would be filed. 3 days later, Jiwoo was strong enough to walk. Hana accompanied her to the containment sector one final time. The cubs were being prepared for transfer to the Rikari ship. When Jiwoo entered, all 3 rushed to the containment field. Gray pressed his massive paws against it. Patch made her rumbling purr sound. Little's tail wagged so hard his entire body wiggled. "I have to say goodbye now," Jiwoo told them, knowing they could not understand the words but hoping they understood the emotion. "You're going home, back to your family." The containment field was lowered. For the first time in 3 months, nothing separated them. Gray approached first, cautious. He pressed his head against Jiwoo's chest. She wrapped her arms around him, feeling his warmth, his strength. Patch joined them, then Little, until Jiwoo was surrounded by soft fur and gentle rumbling sounds. She stayed like that for several minutes, memorizing the moment. Then the Rikari delegation arrived to take them home. The cubs went reluctantly, looking back at Jiwoo repeatedly as they were led away. Taeyang found her standing alone in the empty containment cell hours later. "You okay?" "I will be." Jiwoo touched the wall where Little used to sleep. "I just needed a minute. They're giving you a promotion, assigning you as cultural liaison to the Rikari Alliance." "I heard. You gambled your life on them seeing you as family?" Jiwoo shook her head. "It wasn't a gamble. They were hungry. They were scared. What else was I supposed to do?" Taeyang smiled. "That's the most human thing I've ever heard." 6 months later, Jiwoo received a message from the Rikari homeworld. It included a video of 3 young Rikari running through purple grass under an orange sky. They were healthy, happy, home, and on her uniform, Jiwoo wore a small medallion given by the High Matriarch, the symbol of a pack mother. Reserved for those who sacrifice everything for the young. Station personnel still did not fully understand why she had done it, how she could have risked her life for creatures so dangerous. But Jiwoo understood, and the Rikari understood. Sometimes the most human thing you can do is see a child who needs you and simply care. Everything else follows from that.